You know, sometimes I feel like I could have a full-time job just talking about Dave Ramsey's real estate advice. It's terrible. I don't know what the guy's deal is. I mean, I think that he's just become so ridiculously wealthy.
We do $300 million a year in gross revenues here at Ramsey.
That he's disconnected from the real world. That he thinks that everybody's living in a trailer from 1970 that's worth like $50,000.
Kid, come on out here and see what Uncle Clark's done to the house.
His website, they just put out a blog on Are You Ready to Buy a House just a few days ago. And I was looking through it because, of course, there's going to be some BS advice that they're handing out to people, such as like only do a 15-year mortgage.
I don't yell at people for getting a mortgage. A 15-year fixed rate mortgage.
Okay, well, you're only going to also be able to afford a shack in the middle of Alaska. Good luck with that.
So it's got a walk around yard?
Thanks, Dave. So in this blog, one of the things that they say is don't buy a house if you don't plan on living there for at least 5 years. Their reasoning? Well, they say mathematically that if you're only there for 5 years, you're not going to basically make enough money off of the sale of the property to cover the expenses of selling the property, thus making it a bad investment. But that's complete bullshit. And the reason for that is, again, that Dave Ramsey and all of the little minions that he's got working underneath him drinking the Ramsey Kool-Aid.
Oh, yeah!
They all believe that all of you guys live in some little small town America where home prices are stagnant and you can still afford to buy a house for 150 grand. But the vast majority, all of you guys watching this, hands down, I bet like 90% of you are living in one of the major metropolitan areas across the country, because guess what? That's where like 86% of Americans live, not like towns population 250 people. Wake up, Dave. This is crap advice. Let's go over the numbers in this video and I'll show you just using historical appreciation data, historical based off of the average of the last 80 years of what home prices appreciate for. If you owned a home for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, does it make sense if you had to pay a real estate agent and some closing costs to sell the property? And the answer is, unless you live in bum Egypt, yes, it does. Don't listen to Dave. He's going to make you broke. So if you took the average appreciation rate on real estate in the United States over the last 80 years, on average, every year it goes up about 5.37%. So in this graph that I'm going to show you, that's all I'm using. However, a lot of you watching are in markets where property values go up a whole lot more than that. Go see San Francisco, LA, or whatever. But at the end of the day, this is just average. Which again, Dave Ramsey, who's speaking to a broad audience across the whole United States, this should apply to everybody, not Dave math.
This is called adding. If I have 2 beans and then I add 2 more beans, what do I have?
Some beans.
This is real math. So if you were to buy a house for $650,000, which again, most of you guys watching this is probably the cost of a, pretty average house in your neighborhood. If you were to buy for that amount over a 5-year period, just using historical appreciation rates, that house goes from $650,000 to $844,000. Now, wait, I know that Dave always refers to himself as like a hillbilly, but if I'm a redneck economist right now, and I've got my abacus out.
5 times 14 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 1 is 5. 25. That's it.
844 minus 650, carry the 10. Yeah, that's like $200,000 almost. So even if you had to pay a real estate agent 6%, the buyer's agent, seller's agent, and you had to pay 2% in closing costs, and hell, let's throw in another 2% for repairs, okay? And you sold for 844, so 10%, 844, so that's $84,000. So it's like $84,000, right? So deduct that from the, say, $190,000 or so that you would have had in gross profit. So now you're talking like $104,000 and change in net profit off of buying a house instead of taking Dave's advice and not buying a house because you only planned on being there for 4 years or whatever the case is. So look, if you're only going to be in the house for like a year or something, I would say that just not from a financial standpoint, but just from like a headache and just a pain in the standpoint, buying a house doesn't make sense. Maybe you're in the military and you're an officer and you PCS every 2 years. It's not like when my grandfather was in the military and it made sense to buy a house everywhere you live because they only cost 25 grand. You can't afford to do that these days. So in that case, yeah, you're not going to buy a house every freaking year. But if you're somebody that you're going to be in an area for 2, 3, 4, 5 years potentially, and again, you never freaking know what's going to happen. If you were to hop into a time machine and go back 5 years.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Did you plan on being where you are today? Probably not. So plans also change. So I think that's really crappy advice to hand out to people that unless you've got a solid timeline of living there for 5 years, it mathematically doesn't make sense. That's hillbilly math that you're getting from Dave Ramsey. So again, buyer beware when you're taking his advice when it comes to real estate. Make sure that you do your research, you look around, and don't be in the Ramsey echo chamber of better than I deserve. Hey, if you like this video, do me a huge favor, smash that like button, make sure to subscribe to the channel and put some comments down there. Let me know, what do you think about Dave? Is he full of crap?